He has 2 bounces. He has 3. He runs a long way. It does not matter. That is a goal of the night.
Last night, the Fremantle Dockers 11-9-75 defeated Adelaide Slurpee 7-11-53 by 22 points. They led by 4 at quarter time, by 23 at half time, by 23 at three-quarter time, and 22 in the finish. It almost read from quarter time like Melbourne's weather forecast, or a nice steady weather forecast on the Gold Coast or somewhere nice during a calm period of spring, 22, 23, 22, 24, 23, 22. Now, there were moments when Adelaide had opportunities, but you are deceiving yourself if you believe that all their points could have been goals and all their opportunities taken would have resulted in anything other than a 4-goal loss, because Fremantle quickly reset after a goal, and putting back-to-back goals against them at Subiaco is very difficult. They, when pressed, go to their key players, as Ross Lyon has always done. So when the game is under control, players such as Fife, Barlow's, Mundy's may be taken out of the heat of the battle and preserving their, preserving themselves for when it matters. But as soon as questions are asked, have a look who's on the ball for Fremantle. They quickly revert when any challenge is made of them to best line up, and that inevitably returns themselves to their very comfortable 4-goal lead that Ross Lyon seems to aim to get his teams at.
Yeah, and you look, you know them better than me, but the Lyon coaching, there's a couple of things, and there's one player that you missed there is Michael Walters, and they went in without Ballantyne and Pavlich, so their forward line was a little bit diminished there, no doubt. Mark, they talk about stats, and we don't put a lot into stats here because you and I tend to use our eyes a bit, but Fremantle have won this game with only 3 more inside 50s than the Melbourne Football Club, who are going to get ridiculed, I guess, today for having 30 inside 50s in a game of football. Fremantle have won this game. This is where stats sometimes, and I know our SMS callers came in and said that, Adelaide did well because they won all the key indicators. Fremantle remarkably won a game with only 33 inside 50s, Mark, which is the equal record for a winning team in modern AFL game football. Adelaide actually won the inside 50 count 45-33, but they finished with 3-8 from their set shots, so that was an issue for them. You've summed up Fremantle beautifully. We know that Crowley will go to the likes of Delidio and the key players, the key ball users in the opposition side. We know that Mundy and Barlow and Hill will take turns through the middle of the field. Ross always plays a defensive forward, even though De Boer has developed a little bit more than that, hasn't he, Mark? He's become a little bit better than that, but that's his want. He has a great capacity to free up Michael Johnson. So there's 4 or 5 really strong points to Ross's coaching, but it does come back to they have 5 or 6 hugely influential players, starting with Nate Fife, starting with Michael Barlow and David Mundy, and generally moving down the forward line to Michael Walters. So heading into the finals, I would have thought that, opposition teams, they don't hold, because Fremantle dictate the state of the game. But 11-9-75 doesn't usually win a lot of games. It's their capacity to hold sides to a comfortable or not comfortable 7-11-53. Fife has got 29 possessions. He's kicked 4 goals, so he's been a dominant player. And yet Fremantle will come out of the game with 11 goals. And you're quite right. Even though you said it tongue-in-cheek, you were very serious. It is a comprehensive win, given the fact that all the indicators, these magnificent statistical indicators, clearly were in Adelaide's favour. You had a 22-point win is comfortable. It's over there. Adelaide were coming off a huge emotional game against them last week and competed very well. There's no doubt about that. Sloane was excellent. Vince was a lot better. He had 25 and kicked 1 goal. And they got to within 5 points there at one stage. But Hill, go back to these blokes. Hill, 27. Michael Johnson, 24. Valuable contribution. Michael Barlow, 26. And, of course, Fife's game. And him and Walters kicking 6 between them.
I'll tell you this.
So we know what they're doing. This was the great thing about when Essendon and North had that great rivalry, 90s, 2000s. Everyone knew what North were doing. But then I was saying, you've still got to beat it. Everyone knows what they're doing, mate. Sorry, mate.
No. This much we know is true about Fremantle, that they will have players on the field that maybe to the rest of us are unspectacular, and some people may or may not like the way Crowley plays football, and I guess some of their players like a De Boer and even Subin are role players that have specific roles. Subin can play his role, by the way, in 3 or 4 different guises. They've given Daniel Pearce a clear, he's clearly a carry. He provides carry. There's no attempt, and it's very popular, of course, to have versatility in footballers and to make players capable of carrying out different roles. It adds to their unpredictability and it gives the coach many strings to his bow. But what Ross Lyon has done with this team is he has taken the following players and made them regular AFL footballers when I don't think the rest of the football public either knew them or thought they had any ability. I speak of Walters. He was thought to be just a problematic small forward, another
on his last chance,
another dare I say it, failed little forward. Well, not under Ross Lyon, and of course Ross Lyon sent him away from the club and told him to think about his football future before giving him some very key roles within the team. Did we expect Neil to be a major part of the team? Did we really believe that Subin had something to offer? Because Subin had been tried and dispensed with maybe a couple of times. What was your thinking of Subin when you were there?
Well, Harves gave him a good go, that running half-back. Yeah, I wasn't there with him.
Yep.
But certainly another player. I don't know whether it happened at St Kilda, but it certainly has happened at Fremantle. Walters, go back, disappear, back to the waffle, and come back when you're ready to conform. Subin certainly was told the same thing. So he's had a history of grabbing individual players.
So was Duffield. Duffield
went back
a period out of the team.
Came back and played very well.
Garrick Ibbotson was at Crossroads.
Correct. There's another Crossroads.
It's just interesting that, Daniel Pearce obviously wasn't a Fremantle player.
He was at Port Adelaide Crossroads.
He was performing poorly in a team that was performing terribly after winning the NAB Rising Star. Clancy Pearce, did people immediately identify Clancy Pearce in his first couple of seasons, especially given that he was probably too heavy in his first couple of years? Did people identify him as a regular player in a side that would be challenging for the top 4?
No, you're right.
There is a team here that is building up. Remember, Sandilands gets through the game, which is a plus. Pavlich comes back. Next week's his last week off. This time not injured but suspended. He'll be right to go. Ballantyne comes back. McFarlane comes back. This is a side that most people after Friday night were suggesting it's a 3-team war, and probably a lot of people before Friday night thought that. Hawthorn, Sydney and Geelong. But Fremantle, I just wonder why they're being dismissed. They came to the MCG last year and beat Geelong comfortably at the MCG, and 2 years under Ross Lyon is, and this was shown at St Kilda, 2 years under Ross Lyon is just more of the system drilled in, and they are playing it to perfection. If it reeks of finals football to me, Robert, why would they not be
a contender?
I don't know if it's hard to say. Fremantle a contender. We're talking about a team here that doesn't score a lot. A team. I just read through those players. It's hard for me to call them a contender, but I tell you what, they're a serious top 4 threat.
And there's another name you missed there. And to think that, and to follow up on your theory, and because you watch Ross Coates for a long time, the bloke you missed, Spur.
Well, Lee Spur.
He's a lock-in. Him and Neil.
Yep.
Are in their best 22. I don't care who comes back.
But it's just really interesting, and it's in the eye of the beholder that Greg Broughton had no spot in that team. He could not curry favour with Ross Lyon, and he's now a Gold Coast player. Yet other players that were behind Greg Broughton in the pecking order only a year previously.
Yeah, and now, terrific year, didn't he, Greg Broughton? There.
It's just this side. You will undervalue them at your own peril. They may not do anything that impresses you as a football fan, but they're not out. Fremantle are not out to win your approbation. They're out to win games of footy. And the games that they've lost in the last 2 months have been with teams that are decimated. I mean, full credit to Richmond, but you know why I give Richmond credit last week? Because Freo came at them 5 times in that second half.
The other thing I'd like someone to do, I don't do it, but there's people out there that love their stats. Go through how many games, and I made some notes here. In the seesawing encounter, 6 unanswered Fremantle goals. Go through the number of games where they've gone 4, 5, 6 in a burst.
Well, they can. They did it against...
They do it.
Oh, by the way, they did it against Sydney, in Sydney.
Correct.
And went within a 15th, because that's how far the ball was out when it was marked by Sam Reid.
Now, you young fellas out there, you young fellas that like all your stats and all that out there, get on your computer, go through every Fremantle game, and if you've got the capacity, find out how many games... right, they have blown the opposition away in a 20, 30, 40-minute burst of unanswered goals, and you'll be very, very surprised. I'm not going to pluck a number out of my head, Mark, but it would be significant. And that's a classic case on in this game against Adelaide. You've raised Sydney, so that's 2. I reckon it's up near 6 to 8.
Which means they can turn the tap on.
They can turn the tap on.
That's without Pavlich.
And their weakness is they allow clubs also to come back at them. Adelaide came back at them. So they're an intriguing team to watch. Yep. I wish we could watch them more live. And the game that I'll be first at next week, sitting in the front row, will be Carlton, because it is a classic.
When they are controlling the game, there's a big difference. There's very much... champions in sport, be they teams or players. It's one thing to draw level with, it's another thing to go past a champion. Now, I'm not saying they're a champion team, but when they're on song and when they're getting the rotations right and Ross Lyon is preserving his best players for the important part of the game, it's a very hard thing to go past them. Drawing alongside them is much easier than getting past them, because when threatened, when challenged, have a look at who lines up in the middle, and that's a good... When Fife comes off the square, Barlow and Mundy set up there, Sandilands is in the guts. Gee, they're hard to get they just win the clearances. And Crowley will be sitting on your best midfielder just to make sure that it's 3 on 3, because whoever Crowley's on, good night, Irene.
So we go to Etihad Saturday night, Mark.
Yeah, interesting game.
And if you're impartial, independent, you want to watch a really interesting game of football, Carlton Fremantle.